Morning light brushes across the pink granite shores of Georgian Bay, where white pines lean into the wind. And islands scatter like puzzle pieces across the water. This is Ontario. 415,000 square miles of Canadian territory that runs from the Great Lakes to Hudson Bay. From Manitoba's border to the edge of Quebec. Most people know Toronto's skyline and Niagara Falls, but the province's real character lies in the spaces between. Water defines everything here. Ancient rivers cut through billion-year-old rock. Lakes fill glacial scars left 12,000 years ago. Towns grew where rivers meet, where harbors form, where waterfalls provided power for mills. The Canadian Shield's pink granite meets limestone cliffs that once lay under tropical seas. In some places, you can put your hand on rock that's half the age of the Earth itself. This documentary explores Ontario as it exists today. Fishing harbors where locals still remember the last big storm. Small cities built from their own bedrock. Forests that stretch for days. And yes, the famous places too, seen from angles the crowds miss. Let's see what makes this province what it is. Our journey begins where Ontario first captures the world's attention. At Niagara Falls, one of the world's most powerful displays of natural force. 6 million cubic feet of water thunder over the edge every minute, creating a roar you can feel in your chest. The falls formed 12,000 years ago when melting glaciers filled the Great Lakes. Today, they continue to carve their way through solid bedrock, moving backward about 30 centimeters each year. The Canadian side boasts the most impressive view, with the massive horseshoe-shaped falls spanning 670 meters wide. A perpetual mist rises hundreds of feet into the air, visible from miles away. When sunlight pierces this mist, rainbows dance across the churning waters below. At night, colorful lights transform the falls into a magical display that shifts and shimmers against the darkness. Indigenous peoples called this place Ongui-Ara, the Thundering Waters, long before European explorers arrived. They recognized the spiritual power of this natural wonder for thousands of years. Early visitors would travel for weeks just to witness this spectacular sight. Today, millions of people from around the world make the same journey each year. Standing at the edge, you feel a connection to something truly ancient and powerful. The constant flow reminds us of nature's unstoppable force and endless cycle. From the observation deck, the view extends far beyond just water falling over a cliff. This is a place where you witness the raw energy that has shaped our continent for millennia. The highway leads north toward Canada's largest city, Toronto, pulsing with energy from its vibrant mix of cultures and neighborhoods. Nearly half of the city's residents were born outside of Canada, creating one of the most diverse urban centers in the world. The streets buzz with conversations in over 140 languages and dialects. Around every corner, you'll discover foods, festivals, and traditions that tell stories from across the globe. The CN Tower defines Toronto's skyline, standing tall against the backdrop of gleaming skyscrapers. When completed in 1976, it held the title of world's tallest freestanding structure for over 3 decades. Visitors can walk on the glass floor 342 meters above the ground, feeling their hearts race. The Edgewalk offers the truly brave a chance to circle the tower's exterior while suspended by a harness. The entertainment district hosts Broadway-caliber shows in historic theaters that light up King Street each night. Just steps away, the Distillery District's Victorian-era buildings house art galleries and boutique shops on cobblestone streets. What was once the largest distillery in the British Empire now serves as a car-free cultural hub. The contrast between modern entertainment venues and preserved industrial architecture creates Toronto's unique character. Toronto reinvents itself with each generation while honoring the stories that came before. Sleek waterfront developments now stand where factories once dominated the shoreline. New Canadians continue to shape neighborhoods with their unique contributions to the city's identity. This constant evolution makes Toronto not just a destination, but a living, breathing example of what a modern city can be. Leaving the city's rhythm behind, we return to the Niagara Peninsula. St. Catharines calls itself the Garden City, and the nickname fits. The city maintains over 1,000 acres of parkland, including gardens that bloom from April through October. The climate helps. Sitting between 2 Great Lakes, moderate temperatures, creating a microclimate warm enough for tender fruit trees. The original Welland Canal ran right through downtown. When ships moved to the newer canal, the city turned the old route into a recreational waterway. Now people jog where schooners once sailed, and the old lock walls support restaurants and shops. Martindale Pond hosted rowing events for the 1999 Pan Am Games. The human-made lake freezes into a calm stretch of ice where skaters trace slow arcs through morning mist. What was once a rowing course becomes a quiet stage for blades and balance, framed by snow and low winter light. Following the path of commerce and engineering, we reach Welland, where the canal cuts across the Niagara Peninsula. Lifting ships 327 feet between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. 8 locks accomplish what Niagara Falls makes impossible, a water route through the Great Lakes to the Atlantic. Lock 3 sits right in the city, where a viewing platform lets you stand eye level with ships' bridges. A 740-foot lake freighter takes about 45 minutes to transit a lock. The gates close, some water flows in from above, and 30,000 tons of steel rises like an elevator. The system uses no pumps, just gravity and careful engineering. Where the canal meets Lake Erie, Port Colborne stretches out along a quieter, warmer shore. Here, the waves are smaller, the horizon lower, and the water takes on a softer hue in late summer light. Nickel Beach lies just east of the canal's mouth, tucked behind a curve of dunes and grassy bluffs. Locals drive their cars right onto the sand, unloading chairs and umbrellas like it's a private slice of ocean. The sand is fine and pale, and the lake stays shallow for yards out, warming quickly under the sun. Just beyond the beach, the skyline changes. Tall grain elevators and freighter cranes mark the entrance to Port Colborne's working harbor. This is one of the last places in Ontario where industry and nature still share the same shoreline. Ships from around the Great Lakes dock here, unloading cargo just a few hundred meters from where kids build sand castles. It's a place that balances opposites, leisure and labor, stillness and motion. Nickel Beach reminds you that not every waterfront needs to be pristine to be meaningful. Sometimes the beauty lies in the contrast. Following Lake Ontario's western shore, Hamilton has over 100 waterfalls within its boundaries, more than any other Canadian city. They exist because the city sits where the Niagara Escarpment meets Lake Ontario, creating a 300-foot elevation change. Streams flowing off the escarpment have no choice but to drop. Albion Falls spans 62 feet wide and drops 62 feet, a perfect square of falling water. The cascade has carved a bowl in the soft shale below, creating pools deep enough to swim in during high water. The city has built viewing platforms, but locals know the unmarked trails that lead behind the falls. Tews Falls, just upstream, drops 134 feet in a narrow ribbon, the tallest in the region. It spills from the edge of the escarpment into a deep gorge carved by Spencer Creek. Framed by layers of exposed rock and dense greenery in summer, the trail nearby leads to scenic overlooks, where you can feel the cool spray drifting up from below. moving east along the lake's curve. Mississauga's lakefront extends for 9 miles along Lake Ontario, though much of it remains industrial. The city has been reclaiming sections for public use, building parks and trails that connect neighborhoods to the water. Port Credit began as a trading post where the Credit River meets the lake. The river got its name from French traders who extended credit to indigenous trappers. Now the harbor shelters hundreds of pleasure boats. The lighthouse, rebuilt after a fire in 1991, stands where beacons have guided boats since 1804. The waterfront trail runs through the city, part of a 900-mile route that will eventually circle Lake Ontario. In Mississauga, it passes through parks, crosses river mouths on bridges, and occasionally detours inland around private property. Following it gives you glimpses of how the shoreline looked before development: marshy river mouths, gravel beaches, and bluffs carved by waves. Between Mississauga and the Golden Horseshoe's heart, Oakville maintains the feel of a lake town despite growing to over 200,000 people. The old downtown, called Kerr Village, keeps buildings to 3 stories. Mature trees arch over the streets. You can walk from antique shops to the harbor in 5 minutes. "16-Mile Creek cuts a deep valley through town on its way to the lake. The creek got its name from its distance from the western end of Lake Ontario. Salmon run up the creek each fall, jumping rapids in Lions Valley Park while crowds gather to watch. Bronte Harbor, at the mouth of 12-Mile Creek, stays busy all summer with sailors heading out to race or cruise. The outer harbor protects an inner basin where boats tie up 3 deep on busy weekends. The lighthouse at the harbor entrance still operates, though GPS has replaced it for most navigation. Heading northwest from Toronto's urban sprawl, the Cheltenham Badlands look wrong for Ontario. Red hills stripped of vegetation, carved into sharp ridges and deep gullies. Poor farming practices in the 1930s exposed the Kingston shale underneath, and erosion did the rest. Now these 36 acres of Mars-like terrain draw photographers who come for the way late afternoon sun lights up the iron oxide in the rock. The Badlands sit in the larger Caledon region, where the Niagara Escarpment creates a rumpled landscape of hills and valleys. The Credit River cuts through it all, running cold and clear enough to support wild brown trout. The Bruce Trail passes nearby, following the escarpment edge for 550 miles from Niagara to Tobermory. That trail leads us north to where the Bruce Peninsula runs out of land. Tobermory itself is just a few streets wrapped around two harbors, but those harbors hold some of the clearest water in the Great Lakes. You can stand on the dock and count individual rocks on the bottom 40 feet down. The grotto formed when waves found a weak spot in the Dolomite cliffs and carved inward. Now it's a cave half filled with water that glows blue-green on sunny days. Getting there means scrambling down loose rocks and squeezing through gaps in the cliff face. On busy summer weekends, you'll wait in line for your turn to jump in. Bruce Peninsula National Park protects 60 square miles of cliff, forest, and shoreline. The coastal trail runs along the edge of the Niagara Escarpment, where 400-million-year-old rock drops straight into Georgian Bay. In some places, the trail passes through forests, so thick the ground stays dark at midday. In others, you walk on bare limestone, following cairns across moonscape terrain. Big Tub Harbor got its name from its round shape and steep sides. Now it shelters both pleasure boats and the glass-bottom tour vessels that cruise over the wrecks. The water stays so clear because it's cold. Even in August, the temperature rarely climbs above 60 degrees. Fathom 5 National Marine Park protects 22 known shipwrecks. The shallow ones, some just 20 feet down, date from the 1800s when sailing ships tried to navigate these waters without modern charts. The wood has turned black with age, but you can still see deck planking, ribs, and sometimes anchors lying where they fell. Beyond Tobermory's harbors stretches one of the most remarkable waterscapes in North America. Georgian Bay contains somewhere around 30,000 islands. The exact count depends on what you call an island versus a rock with a tree on it. The bay itself stretches 120 miles from north to south, big enough to generate its own weather systems. The islands range from bare granite knobs that disappear in high water to substantial chunks of land with forests, meadows, and freshwater ponds. Some support single cottages passed down through families for generations. Others remain empty except for the cormorants that nest on their windward shores. The group of 7 painters came here in the 1920s, drawn by the way wind shapes the white pines and how pink granite meets blue water. I.Y. Jackson painted the same stretch of shore dozens of times, trying to capture how the light changes through the seasons. Today, you can stand in the same spots and see why they kept coming back. Along Georgian Bay's eastern shore, Parry Sound wraps around a protected bay that has sheltered boats for generations. The town grew around lumber mills that processed white pine from the surrounding forests. Those forests are long gone, replaced by second-growth hardwoods, but the harbor remains busy with boats heading out to explore the 30,000 islands. From town, you can boat to islands where the only signs of humans are the navigation markers on offshore shoals. The outer islands face open water that stretches to Michigan, 200 miles away. When storms blow in from the west, waves crash against granite shores with enough force to throw spray 50 feet inland. Inland from Georgian Bay's rocky shores, Muskoka's lakes interconnect like a liquid puzzle. Lake Muskoka flows into Lake Roseau, which connects to Lake Joseph, all linked by rivers and human-made cuts. The region supports about 60,000 year-round residents, but that number triples each summer when cottage owners arrive. The lakes formed when glaciers scraped hollows in the granite bedrock, then melted to fill them. The deepest spots reach down over 200 feet. The water stays clean enough that many cottagers still draw drinking water straight from the lake. Algonquin Provincial Park begins where the cottage country ends. At 2,900 square miles, it's bigger than Prince Edward Island. The interior contains over 2,000 lakes, most accessible only by canoe. On autumn nights, you can hear wolves calling across the valleys, not the Hollywood version, but the real thing, long, wavering notes that carry for miles. Back on the water, Manitoulin Island stretches nearly 100 miles across Lake Huron, holding the title of the largest island in any freshwater lake on Earth. Its rugged shoreline and quiet bays give way to winding roads that pass through dense forest and open farmland, where time seems to move a little slower. Surrounded on all sides by Lake Huron's deep blue waters, the island's landscape feels remote and elemental. Small communities line the coast, and the lake is never far from view. Whether it's the calm of a sheltered inlet or the open horizon glowing at dusk. Near the island's eastern edge, the road climbs toward Whitefish Falls, where cliffs rise above a web of rivers, lakes, and forest. It's one of the best places to see Manitoulin's layered terrain from above. Water, rock, and trees in every direction, blending into the vastness of the lake beyond. Leaving the islands behind, we venture inland to where Sudbury sits in a 40-mile-wide basin created by a meteorite impact 1.8 billion years ago. The second largest known impact crater on Earth. The nickel and copper deposits that made the city's fortune came from that cosmic collision. For decades, smelter emissions killed most vegetation around the city, leaving bare black rock. Starting in the 1970s, the city began a regreening program. Volunteers have planted over 10 million trees. The transformation shows what's possible when a community decides to fix past damage. Ramsey Lake sits right in the city, big enough for sailboats and deep enough for lake trout. The city built Science North on the shore, housed in two snowflake-shaped buildings designed to blend with the rock outcrop they sit on. The facility includes a climate lab where you can experience -40 degrees, the temperature where Celsius and Fahrenheit scales meet. Following the waters east toward the St. Lawrence, Kingston's downtown is built from limestone, quarried from the same bedrock the city sits on. The stone gives the buildings a uniform gray color that turns golden at sunset. Many structures date from the 1840s, when Kingston briefly served as Canada's capital. Fort Henry guards the entrance to the St. Lawrence River from its hilltop position. The British built it in the 1830s to defend against American invasion. Walls 10 feet thick, designed to withstand cannon fire that never came. Now students in period uniforms perform rifle drills for tourists. East of the city, the St. Lawrence River widens and splits around the first of the Thousand Islands. The Granite Islands start small, just rocks with a few trees, but grow larger as you head downstream. Some hold single cottages, others support entire communities connected to the mainland by bridges. Where the river begins to reveal its island treasures, Brockville grew up, where the Thousand Islands Parkway meets the St. Lawrence River. The town's prosperity came from its position on the water route between the Great Lakes and the Atlantic. 19th century merchants built elaborate homes on the hillside, each trying to claim the best river view. The town's waterfront district frames the shoreline with a mix of modern towers, marinas, and historical streets. From above, you can trace Brockville's grid of rooftops stretching toward the river, where pleasure boats rest in the calm, protected harbor. This is where river life and small-town rhythm meet, with locals gathering along walkways and green spaces beside the water. Beyond the marina, the St. Lawrence opens wide. Scattered islands dot the channel, some home to quiet cottages tucked among trees, others left wild and untouched. Upstream from the islands, where two rivers converge, Ottawa stands as the nation's capital and the place where the country's story unfolds. Queen Victoria chose this strategic location in 1857, transforming a lumber town into a political center. The stunning Gothic Revival buildings of Parliament Hill rise above the Ottawa River with limestone facades and copper roofs. Inside these halls, Canadian democracy blends British traditions with uniquely Canadian innovations. The historic Rideau Canal cuts through the heart of Ottawa, a 19th century engineering marvel now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Built as a military supply route after the War of 1812, it stretches 202 kilometers to Kingston. Summer brings boats and cyclists to its waterways and pathways. Winter transforms the canal into the world's largest naturally frozen skating rink, extending 8 kilometers through downtown. Across the Ottawa River, Gatineau Park offers a wilderness escape just minutes from Parliament. This 361 square kilometer conservation area becomes a natural playground for every season. Hiking trails wind through forests that burst with spectacular color in autumn. From Champlain Lookout, visitors gain a breathtaking view of the Ottawa River Valley with the capital spread below. Returning full circle to where our journey began, underlying all these shoreline communities lies the massive presence that shapes everything. Lake Ontario may be the smallest Great Lake, but its 7,340 square miles still create an inland sea. The lake reaches 802 feet deep off Rochester, cold enough at depth to preserve wooden ships for centuries. Its surface area equals that of New Jersey. The Scarborough Bluffs show what lies under much of Toronto, layers of sand and clay deposited by glaciers compressed into rock-like hardness. The bluffs rise 300 feet above the lake, eroding back about 3 feet per year. Houses built too close to the edge occasionally tumble down the slope. Prince Edward County juts into the lake like a broken piece of the mainland. The island, technically no longer an island since a canal was filled in, contains some of Ontario's best beaches. Sandbanks Provincial Park protects the largest freshwater sand dune system in the world. Mountains of sand up to 80 feet high, held in place by grasses that turn golden in fall. Before we wrap up this journey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new adventure. Share this video with someone who would love to explore this amazing journey with you. And before we go, I'd love to know where you're watching from. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Drop it in the comments below. Who knows, maybe our next documentary will take us to your part of the world. Ready for the next journey? Click the video on your screen and let's dive into another amazing wonder.